Hi, and welcome to this Velocity Excel tutorial. This is designed to show you some fun things to do during a flight that you may not be aware of and that you probably won't find on some other aircraft. So let's start with the setup. So here we are inside the cockpit. We'll check the parking brake is on, battery on, and now we're greeted by these great environmental sounds. So the blower turns on right away. We turn on our G3X comes on, the PFD. We acknowledge some warnings, and we can start by turning on the avionics master, give the second G3X some time to boot up. So we're going through some checklist items here. Let's acknowledge the warning for the multifunction display there. You see the fan's on, but the heat or the cooling is not going to work until the engine's on. So check some breakers now. The door seal breaker, landing gear breaker, all the other breakers are under the armrest. They're on when you start. Turn our fuel selectors on. And here for this PFD, we can go through some options to customize it. So if you want those engine displays on the side, it doesn't start out in this current configuration, so I had to customize it. I had to switch. I like to have the engine display on the right, and then there's also some brightness settings you can change. So you might have seen screenshots where the arrangement's a little different. That's where you go to change that. You can do this for either display. So we can check our outside air temperature, 75 Fahrenheit right now. Inside it's hot. Now we want to cool it down, but you'll see this only works when you turn on the engine and when you use the AC. We could open the door and we could see the temperature change too. So what I'll do first is set the fuel, match the fuel between the 750 and the G3X. So we're adding this current amount of fuel to the G3X fuel calculator to match the 750. And this will give us an accurate fuel usage at the end of the flight.
Ottawa Tower Velocity Charlie, India November Echo Tango, ready to copy IFR clearance to Charlie Yankee Golf Kilo.
Flight clearance.
Velocity Charlie India November Echo Tango is cleared to Charlie Yankee Golf Kilo Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 6 climb and maintain 10,000 feet. Departure frequency is 134.975 squawk 1106.
Velocity Charlie India November Echo Tango, cleared to Charlie Yankee Golf Kilo Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 6 climb and maintain 10,000 feet. Departure on 134.975 squawk 1106.
Velocity November Echo Tango readback is correct. Contact ground on 128.175 when ready to taxi. Good day.
Okay. So now we can set up our instruments and our autopilot. Okay, check our flight plan. We're doing a quick flight to CYGK through Ohlone. What we want to do is activate that first leg because the airways don't work quite right for this particular flight plan. So set cruising altitude here to 10,000 feet, and this way our first altitude at the first waypoint will be 10,000. So set the altimeter to 10,000, and now I have a joystick here where I can do this with a knob, so you don't see me doing it on the instruments in the cockpit. So nav mode on. We're going to climb using IAS. So we're going to set the speed to 130 knots, which I believe is the VY for this aircraft. test the landing gear. Test the autopilot. Okay, now because this is Canada, we're going to turn off or set our transponder to standby until we are ready to enter the runway. Typically in the US you wouldn't do that. The strobe lights on, fuel pumps on, so we're ready to start the engine. So this is how you start it correctly. You set the mixture to lean. You put it rich for 5 seconds. Then lean again. And then we put the throttle to about a 1/4 inch in, turn off the fuel pump, turn on the magnetos, and hold the starter while advancing the mixture. And then we want to hit 1000 RPM. So when we get 1000 RPM, reduce or tweak the mixture a little bit to hold 1000. Now I'm doing the mixture with my with a little knob on my joystick. But yeah, now shortly after starting, it's going to go up a bit, so you'll have to tweak it again. Let's check our flight control surfaces while we're doing that. So now we'll test the brakes and then request taxi IFR. So release parking brake and check the tow brakes.
Ottawa, ground velocity Charlie, India November Echo Tango, ready to taxi IFR.
Velocity Charlie, India November Echo Tango taxi to and hold short of runway 6 using taxiway Alpha Echo Cross runway 6. Contact tower on 128.175 when ready.
So if you notice there, I turned on the nav lights and the landing lights.
Velocity November Echo Tango, did you copy?
Taxiing hold short runway 6 using taxiway Alpha Echo, cross runway 6 velocity November Echo Tango.
So now we'll do the engine run-up. So enrich the mixture until you hit full rich, about 1700 RPM. Now cycle the magnetos. You'll see the RPM drop a little bit when one of them is off. Now we'll exercise the propeller pitch. So we see again the change of RPM. So now set the throttle to idle. And then reduce the mixture again while keeping RPM around 1000, so increase the throttle a little bit. And get it back to 1000 RPM. So we'll set off towards the hold short line, request permission for takeoff. It's getting hot in here. Let's turn on the AC and turn up the blower so that we get more wind here. It's going to take some time, and we do want to turn off the AC for takeoff though. So we could just open the door, I guess. Okay, let's request permission to take off.
Ottawa Tower velocity Charlie, India November Echo Tango at runway 6 ready for departure IFR to Charlie Yankee Golf Kilo.
Velocity Charlie, India November Echo Tango, altimeter 30.22 wind calm. Cleared for takeoff runway 6.
I like to set the altimeter pressure manually, it's just a little more fun.
Cleared for takeoff runway 6 velocity Charlie, India November Echo Tango.
And turn on the transponder again, since we're about to enter the runway as per Canadian regulations. Okay, so we're lined up on runway 6. Turn on the fuel pump. Mixture, rich, full rich. Turn off the AC. And then full power. Positive rate of climb. Gear up. Full ping towards our GPS course.
Velocity November Echo Tango, contact Montreal Center on 134.9
So
or 7
lower the pitch slightly.
Good day.
Should be 2650 during climb.
134.9 75 velocity, November Echo Tango. Goodbye.
So I'm lowering it with my joystick knob.
Montreal Center velocity Charlie, India November Echo Tango is at 2,000 feet, climbing 10,000 feet.
Fuel pump off.
Velocity Charlie, India November Echo Tango, Montreal Center, altimeter 30.22 radar contact, continue.
Turn on the yaw damper. And autopilot's on. So now we're climbing towards 10,000 feet at 130 knots as planned. And for now we're not going to touch the fuel mixture or do any leaning yet. That part's coming a little later. We'll wait till we get to cruising altitude. So now we'll set the door seals to inflate and turn the power on, and that will reduce the cabin noise dramatically. And then we can turn on the AC and get the temperature where we want it. So you can play with the fan speed here, you can play with the blower. And you can pretend like you're too hot or too cold. Let's check all the switches, we're all good. During this cruise climb phase, I also reduced the propeller pitch to under 2600 RPM. So I'm going to use the split screen for the PFD to have the map on the PFD so that I can have a full engine page on the MFD. And that shows the lean assist button, which is not shown if you have it on the split screen. Right now on the engine page, you can also see my fuel consumption is just under 18 gallons per hour. So for this, I used the LitltleNavMap profile, and for this kind of high performance flight, I want to hit 18 gallons per hour for the climb, 16 for the cruise, which is a very fast cruise speed, and then 13 for the descent. So that's what we're going to use during those 3 phases. We are at cruising altitude, and I'm starting by setting up my VNAV calculator to calculate the descent for going down to 2,900 feet at 700 feet per minute. It's a short flight, so I want to know when I'm going to have to start descending. And I should really have set my propeller pitch down to 2450 RPM here, but I forgot. Now this is the part of the flight where we can play the engine mixture mini game, where we can lean the mixture to find that most efficient setting. And here I turned on lean assist to help me find the highest engine temperature. So now I'm leaning the mixture. If you look at the gallons per hour, you'll see it dropping, and the EGT is going up. So it's going up, up, up. That hit it high, and now it's dropping again. And the blue lean assist cylinder temperature indicators there show me how far down from the peak it is. So we're past the peak. But now I realized that I had high RPM here, so I'm setting the propeller to 2450, which should be the right setting for my cruise. Once again, I'm on the lean side now. I'm under 12 gallons per hour on the lean side, so now I can increase the manifold pressure, and so throttle is full now. And now I'm increasing the mixture until I hit about 13 gallons per hour, and that gives me, or 16 in this case. So I'm doing 16 gallons per hour, and with the lean mixture, if you look at the speed indicator, I'm going to be well over 180, maybe 185 knots, whereas with the rich mixture, with the same fuel consumption, we were doing about 170, 175, I think. So you can choose whether you want to use this lean mixture for efficiency or for speed, but this is kind of a fun game to play on this on the Velocity XL, where you can basically max out the speed by carefully tweaking the fuel mixture and getting just the right fuel consumption you want, and just watch that speed. Like you're well over 200 knots. You can hit 220, 240 ground speed easily with this aircraft. So that's what makes it so cool, and I guess that's why they call it the Velocity. So I'm being told to descend to target now. So let's set our altitude and set our vertical speed. So I'll use vertical speed this time to set it to 700 feet per minute, and basically do what the VCalc tells us. There's no VNAV in this aircraft. There's a VNAV button that doesn't do anything, but it's actually more fun to use that VCalc to basically dilate it automatically, and it gives you something to do during the descent part of the flight, besides just looking at charts. During the descent phase, we decided to go for about 13 gallons per hour fuel consumption, so I reduced the throttle, and start leaning the mixture up, and basically hit the fuel consumption figures from our plan, and we can see that the speed is kind of nuts here. We are hitting 230 knots ground speed. so we're
Velocity
doing
November
a pretty
Echo
fast
Tango.
descent.
You are 600 feet below your assigned altitude. Climb and maintain 10,000 feet altimeter tree 0.22.
Climb and maintain 10,000 feet velocity, November Echo Tango.
Landing lights on. As we descend, we should enrich the mixture again, and at the same time keep hitting our fuel consumption targets. So you can play with the throttle and the mixture at the same time, and just try to stay at 13 gallons per hour in this case, and just keep enriching since we're lowering altitude.
Velocity November Echo Tango. You are 24 miles northeast. Descend and maintain 2,900 feet. Expect ILS runway 19er approach via Obram transition. Clear to Obram.
Descend and maintain 2,900 feet. Expect ILS runway 19er approach via Obram transition. Clear to Obram velocity November Echo Tango.
So by now we would have went through our approach charts, make sure we have the correct ILS frequency in nav1, and then basically monitor. So by now at low altitude we pretty much have a rich mixture. We're actually rich of peak. And we're using the throttle to maintain that target fuel consumption. And we can turn off lean assist so we're not using it anymore. I've cut out some boring parts of this approach, but here I wanted to point out the little blue arc on the map display that shows us when we're going to reach the target altitude of 2,900 feet. So that's one thing that's useful. You might have to turn that on in the settings. I can't remember if this shows up by default.
November Echo Tango. You are 12 miles north of Charlie Yankee Golf Kilo. Contact tower on 121.7 when inbound.
Tower on 121.7 velocity, November Echo Tango. Tower velocity Charlie, India November Echo Tango, 11 miles north inbound ILS runway 19er approach.
Velocity Charlie, India November Echo Tango Tower. Altimeter tree 0.2 tree wind calm cleared ILS runway 19er approach.
So I've hit the approach button to engage the ILS here.
Cleared ILS runway 19er approach velocity, November Echo Tango.
Remember, you need the correct ILS frequency and under nav1 active frequency in order for this to work. Just picked up the glide slope as shown in the at the GS indicator there. Propeller should be full flying for landing. Mixture should be full rich already.
Velocity, November Echo Tango, wind calm cleared to land runway 19er.
Cleared to land runway 19er velocity November Echo Tango.
Fuel pump on. Look at those beautiful solar farms over there giving us the glare. So that's actually a scenery by NetDesign. Landing gear test, and we're below 120 knots, so we can drop the landing gear. It's nice to do it around 110 probably, and that helps you control the speed too. Since there are no flaps on this aircraft, you kind of have to manage the speed a bit better than an aircraft where you have flaps, but you can do things like wiggle the aircraft around if you get in trouble. Yaw damper off. Looking at Kingston, Ontario here. Looks pretty good in the haze in the morning. Got two white lights, looking good. I like to use the autopilot as long as I can here, just to see how well it can handle it. A little too high. Ideally I would have set the minimums before doing this and checked, but oops. Okay, autopilot off.
November Echo Tango, turn next taxiway.
We lean the mixture for taxi, so I'm starting to do it now and turn off the fuel pump.
Velocity, November Echo Tango, contact ground on 121.7.
And set transponder to standby as per Canadian rules.
121.7 velocity, November Echo Tango. Goodbye. Ground velocity, Charlie, India November Echo Tango taxi to parking.
Velocity Charlie, India November Echo Tango taxi to general aviation parking using taxiway.
We'll just park in the first GA parking spot here and then prepare the aircraft for shutdown. We'll go through that shutdown procedure.
Velocity November Echo Tango. Did you hear my last transmission?
Taxiing to general aviation parking via taxiway Velocity November Echo Tango.
So landing lights off, nav lights off. Right, mixtures lean. Set the parking brake. Set the door seals to deflate and keep that for 10 seconds. Turn the AC off. So door seal power off. We can turn off the pitot heat. Now would have been a good time to check how much fuel I used during the flight to see if I matched my LitltleNavMap flight plan fuel usage calculation. You can check the outside temperature and see how that changes when we open the door. So it's cool outside. I can turn that off now. It's pretty cool how the environmental controls respond to all these changes, opening the doors, and you can play with the ACs. It's like a whole system to play with when you're bored. So the procedure for shutdown calls for waiting until CHT is 250 before you turn off the engine. So typically I just fast forward or you wait. If you have low RPMs at like 700, that makes it cool faster. But, in real life, you probably just let it cool down properly. So once the CHT is below 250, you can cut the throttle. That turns the engine off. Cut the fuel mixture. Fuel selector's off. Strobe lights off. Magneto's off. Alternator off. Radio master off. And finally, battery off. And now you can enjoy the sound of the cooling engine. So I hope you enjoyed this. Maybe learned something if you're new to mixture leaning or the velocity itself. And I'll put a link in the description for the proper leaning procedure, for some background information, and take care.